All right, everyone, please welcome onto the podcast today Richard Tomlinson. He is the Director of Product Marketing for Databricks. He's here today to discuss data intelligence for self-service analytics alongside an ebook that is currently published right now for folks to download and explore. We're going to get into a lot of good conversation here, but before we jump in there, Richard, how are you doing today? Thank you for your time. And if you don't mind starting off with a little bit of a background about yourself for the audience, that would be terrific.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks, Andrew. Yeah. Thanks for having me. First off, yeah, I'm Richard. I work for Databricks. Actually, I'm in product marketing org, and I'm responsible for AI BI, which is our like native BI tooling in the Databricks data intelligence platform. I've been at Databricks for nearly 4 years now, but my whole career has been in data and analytics, starting in the mid 90s. I worked for companies like Informix Software when data warehousing was a thing just starting to come out. I moved to Business Objects. I was there for almost 10 years
Mhm.
and got out just before the SAP acquisition. And I've worked for a variety of like small startups in the data and analytics space. And then more recently, with the advent of machine learning, I got some experience with a company called Data Robot, which is all about automated machine learning. And then ultimately ended up at Databricks, which is kind of like the inflection of everything I've ever learned in my career in one company. So data warehousing, data engineering, AI, business intelligence, it's all here. It's all under one roof. So we have some of the most talented people like out there, working in this space. So I'm really excited to work for Databricks.
Oh, that's fantastic, and we're super excited to have you on here. As I mentioned, we're going to be discussing self-service analytics and data intelligence here on this episode. But it is featuring an ebook. I just called that out as well. The ebook for folks, it will be in the description if you're interested in downloading. It's called Business Intelligence Meets AI: Self-Service Analytics That Finally Works. And so, Richard, I do want to steer us into that direction now, since that's the bulk of our conversation today. And I'll start off with a little piece of research that was handed to me by my colleague Fern Halper. And she mentioned that at TDWI, in our research and our surveys that we do, we repeatedly see that self-service analytics is a top priority for organizations, and it's been that way for quite some time. In fact, it has been a priority for so long that it suggests that organizations might actually be struggling with this whole notion. Um, in the book, you describe a longstanding promise of self-service analytics that, is promised to make data insights accessible to everyone. So I say all that to say, why hasn't that been the case yet? And where are we now with this particular aspect of the industry?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big question, but I ever since I've been working in business intelligence, way back in the day, for 20 years, people have been talking about self-service analytics. And it started back in the day as, oh, we'll give them a report and you can change the prompts on the report and then you can answer your own questions, right? So, they had that first notion, but that was only so flexible. It could only answer so many questions. Then you had, you know, I think tools like Click and Tableau that came out in the early 2000s or mid 2000s that promised this kind of more like free-form data discovery experience where you could click on a chart and everything cross filters. You could change any filter, really interact with the data, which gave end users a lot more ability to answer more questions for themselves, but still, you're still limited to what's on that report. Um, then we saw in the advent of like companies like ThoughtSpot and Power BI, everybody started to put like search boxes on their BI tools and said, "Hey, there's a natural language interface now. You can ask questions." And again, that was great. That gave more flexibility, but that natural language capability was never really there. Um, and now we have generative AI, and we all know like the power of how that has just unleashed natural language in many industries across many different use cases. But really, why hasn't BI ever really, or self-service analytics ever been realized? I think the fundamental reason is decision makers, so people who are not technical experts, don't want to learn BI tools. Like we have hundreds and thousands of AEs or account execs at Databricks. None of them are wanting to go in and say, "Oh, I really want to learn Tableau. I really want to learn AI, BI so I can build my own reports." They've got no time for that. So their default mode is to ask a question and have somebody who knows how to build the report build it for them. Um, but as we mentioned, those tools across the last 20 years have gotten more flexible, but they're still limited in the amount of flexibility and the ability to answer any question, right? So it just it's a sad fact that we've never really realized true self-service and this concept of a BI backlog, which is, stressed out data analysts who don't have the time to build and service all the requests that they
Hmm.
have from their end users. That backlog is just growing and growing, So um, I think I just saw a statistic from Howard Dresner actually that he said that only 30% of enterprises have claimed success with self-service analytics. I personally, I think that's really high, but even so, that's kind of where we are.
Right, and 30% being high is obviously an
Yeah.
indication as well of the state of everything
Yeah.
around. And you mentioned generative AI. I'm not surprised that we're already jumping in to that topic here as well. And obviously, it's unlocked some things. So with generative AI, some companies I think are assuming that they can just introduce this and slap on a front end to their data platform. And this can, potentially help the non-technical users, as you're talking about, get to their answers quicker. But what's wrong with this thought process, and how should organizations be thinking about it differently?
Well, for a start, like most LLMs out there are they're trained on what's public on the internet, right? So they're really smart at cooking recipes and Python coding and various things like that, but they don't understand any particular organization's internal data. They don't understand their language, the semantics that they use on a day-to-day basis. So they kind of have what we call general intelligence. But what they need is what Databricks is really leaning into, which is data intelligence. And data intelligence is, AI that has the ability to reason on your data. It understands the concepts in your data, how it's used, business concepts, how people talk about their data, the terms they use, and that enables LLMs to be a lot more accurate. I think what we've seen is a lot of existing BI vendors, many of them are great partners of ours, have rushed to bolt ChatGPT onto the side of their BI tool. And it's only kind of gotten them so far. We've seen some amazing demos, but the reality is those LLMs at most only understand what's in that particular report or in that BI tool, what's in that semantic layer. So they're kind of limited to the types of questions that they can answer. For example, if you ask a question, how many of my platinum customers have churned? If platinum customers, the concept is not in that dashboard, it just doesn't know how to answer. And worst off, it might just hallucinate a wrong answer and not even tell the end user that it doesn't understand what platinum customers are. So to do it the right way, we feel that AI needs data intelligence, and that means it needs to understand all of an organization's data, and that means everything in the entire data state, all of its metadata, how that data is used, like how it's queried, um, and then all of the surrounding business concepts. Like we have like dollar $DBU, everything is dollar $DBU at Databricks. Or what the heck does that mean? So it should understand like those business semantics
Hmm.
as well. And then finally, it needs to be able to adapt to change. So concepts are always evolving in the real world. The definition of platinum customers today might be different tomorrow. And you need a way of constantly updating those models so they have the most up-to-date knowledge as possible. And that shouldn't necessarily be the practitioner that's always updating those models. The actual end user should be able to tell the model, this is what the new definition of platinum customer churn is, so it can use that. So
Hmm. So in the book, you introduced us to Genie, Databricks' AI-powered assistant. Could you walk us through how that system like Genie works behind the scenes to turn, as you're talking about like plain language into some sort of actual realized insight?
Well, I can, to the limit of my knowledge, I'm not like a PhD, AI person. I don't know if about a year ago, we acquired a company called Mosaic AI.
Hmm.
We got a lot of very, very talented thought leaders in the industry and engineers that really understand the space. So we've really kind of leveraged a lot of that skill set, a lot of
Hmm.
those technologies to build and power the intelligent experiences right across our platform, not just in Genie, but in general. Um, uh, but how does it work? Well, this is kind of my layman's description of how it works. But Genie is built on an AI system, so it's not built on a single LLM. It's actually built on a number of different LLMs, and we call it, as an agent system or an agentic system. So what that means is, different agents perform different roles. They have different areas of specialization, and they work together and they think harder and they think deeper to get the right answer. So you might have an agent that's, its specialty is translating a natural language question and figuring out what data elements it needs to query. Another agent might be a text to SQL agent. Another agent might be purely designed to explain the results in natural language back to the end user. Another agent could be a visualization expert and decide what's the right visualization to display this result in. And between all of these agents, they work together to get the best possible answers. So you have this agentic framework on top of um, a data intelligence foundation. So how those agents are actually trained, we train them in three ways. First, as I mentioned, everything in the data platform, because Databricks is a data platform. It's like it's ground truth. It's everything about a company's data is in Databricks. So it knows all of the data structures, the schemas. It knows foreign key, primary key relationships, how people join data together. It understands how data is documented. So what does this column mean? We even use AI to generate that documentation. So it has a lot of context from the data platform itself. Additionally, BI reports, they contain queries. It knows how that data is queried, how it's actually used. So it's a ton of context. And then you add on top of that expert curated examples. So you don't just say, "Hey, point Genie at Databricks, it can figure everything out for itself." You add on top of that, okay, there's these really smart analysts that absolutely know the gold standard way to generate a query for platinum customers. So we will provide those gold standard instructions to the LLMs, and Genie has like a UI that you can actually enter those instructions as
Mm.
well. And then the third piece, as I mentioned earlier, is just it just learns from real-time feedback. For example, let's say take the platinum customer example. Let's say an expert hasn't added that as an instruction. An end user says, "What's how much revenue have we lost from our platinum customers this month?" Genie will actually say, "I'm sorry, I don't understand what a platinum customer is. Could you tell me?"
Mm.
So at that point, you can type in a platinum customer is a customer that generates, I don't know, over $10,000 within any given month. Thanks a lot. Now I know what it is, and it can apply that learning to all of your follow-on questions.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So, it's that kind of big body of knowledge of machine data, human data, expert instructions with an agentic system on top of that. Um, that's it in a nutshell.
That was fantastic, and I can appreciate the layman's terms. I think a lot of the listeners here are also not PhDs, so it is. I think you did a great job explaining that for all of us to understand. And there's quite a lot of that's involved. So I would imagine the technical portion would need its own podcast separate from our conversation here.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. Or come to Data and AI Summit and learn all about it. There you go.
Fantastic. Okay, so I do have you gave a great example there about an interaction there and that conversational piece and learning in the real time. I have like a kind of a follow-up, I guess, on that is like how do you see the role of data teams evolving as more business users interact with, tools like Genie?
Yeah, well, so it's interesting because from the customers that use Genie and use AI BI that we've seen so far, their roles have changed a little bit. So they've certainly found themselves building less dashboards and reports for their end users because their end users now have the ability to self-serve a lot more. So their kind of job role has moved from I'm creating 50 reports this week to maybe I'm creating 10 reports this week,
Mm,
but I'm maintaining I'll spend the rest of my time maintaining and training this AI system. So, I'm looking at the types of questions that are coming in. I'm looking at whether or not people thumbs up or thumbs down that question. And then I'm adjusting the instructions. I'm adding new instructions. I'm providing clarification to the AI over time. So, over a course of weeks or months, the
mm,
AI becomes smarter and smarter and better and better. So I think that's the role of the analyst is more, they're going to get away from like just cutting SQL code all day into, it's really more like onboarding a new analyst or intern, right?
right.
And you're teaching them everything about the business. I think that's kind of what they're going to be doing more. Ultimately, I hope, that they can be doing more strategic projects versus having to, just do fire drills and, please, one more report, pretty please, one more pie chart, that's all you ever hear. So hopefully the AI can take care of some of that stuff.
Hmm.
They can focus on the value add.
No, that's great. And I'm assuming at least a few of them out there are happy to reduce the number of reports you have to spin up, and to get, creative with bigger picture items like you're talking about. You can, work on deeper issues.
Yeah.
Okay, so I only have a couple more questions here for you, Richard. I know your time is very valuable, but I do want to touch on the a topic that I think you kind of mentioned. You brought up there briefly. The idea of having a human in the loop, I think, is very important. So we hear all the time about generative AI systems that, may hallucinate and they may have bias. And so, alongside of that, how do you see Genie guaranteeing some sort of transparency or trust? If you can talk about, in the past that we've heard these systems referred to as like black boxes,
Yeah.
is that still the case here with Genie, or is it a little bit more opaque for folks?
Well, I mean, I don't think you can ever say with hand on heart, 100% confident this LLM is always going to give you the right answer, or we can do the best that we can with the tools that we have. So how we try and foster trust in Genie is by, making the answers as explainable as possible. So the first thing it will do is when a user asks a question, it will explain its reasoning in natural
Mm,
language. It's like, oh, you asked this question. I'm actually going to go and query this table and this column, and I'm going to join it with some other data here, and then I'm going to divide by this. And so it's going to kind of give you a natural language explanation. So just a mere mortal could say, I think that logic sounds right. It's doing the right steps.
got it.
Another way is if you are technically savvy, which most end users are not, but some are, you can see the SQL. The SQL itself is exposed in the tool. Um, uh, we mentioned that we've very much tuned the LLMs or the agent system to not hallucinate when it's unsure. So if there is the slightest degree of doubt in its answer, it will ask for clarification rather than give an answer or guess an answer that may or may not be right. So we quite often see, and if I showed you a demo, I could ask a few questions, and some of them would come back at the start saying, "I don't know, just you tell me," and then you tell it, and it knows. Um, we also, have a number of like kind of admin features in Genie, so any end user can thumbs up and thumbs down the answers. Those results get stored in logs, and analysts or administrators of Genie can then go and just run reports on which questions are coming in as good, which questions are coming in as bad. We also have a benchmarking capability So admins can say, I want this answer. I know, let's say it's an end of quarter financial statement. It needs to be dollars and cents. It needs to be accurate, but people could ask for that data in 100 different ways. So that we have a benchmarking capability to go test out all these different variations of questions to make sure you're getting the same answer. There's features like request a review. So if a user is on the fence, it's got a a result that's come back. Not quite sure. I think this is right, but I'm not quite sure. You can just say I want to request a review, and that will like fire an email off to the admin to say, hey, just go check out this answer. And if
Mm.
the answer's wrong, like tighten up the instructions. And then finally, we have the ability, the agents in Genie know how to use various tools in the platform. This is another kind of concept of agentic systems as they have the ability to use tools like call REST APIs. Well, Genie can actually go look for SQL functions, and a SQL function is it's kind of like a little mini SQL program that's built into Unity Catalog, into our governance model. That is like the gold standard answer. So it'll always try to find a SQL function that can answer the question, and if it finds one, it will say, "Hey, I found a SQL function. This is a certified or a trusted answer." We
Mm.
actually like show trusted answer in the
Oh,
in,
wow.
in the UI there as well. So we just try and do as much as possible to make it as explainable as possible and less black box.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, and that's it seems like a massive step in the right direction. I haven't heard of any other, offerings that are this conversational with the back and forth.
Yeah.
So this is pretty groundbreaking stuff, which is excellent. It leads me to my last question here, though, Richard. Looking ahead, as I like to do sometimes, I want to see if I can have a projection from you. What do you think the next phase of AI-driven BI will look like, and how far can this go in terms of, automation or predictive insights?
Oh man, I don't know. This is when we all like start levitating and go into the metaverse, or what is it like Neo in the Matrix? We
That's
just
right.
suddenly know. Uh,
Yes, everything's in
yeah,
code.
no, I don't know. I think next step, certainly for us anyway, is so Genie is very good at this dialogue. It's
Mhm.
very good at having you can have a conversation, but it's really good at answering what and how questions. Not that great at saying why, right? So, okay, you lost $20,000 from your platinum customers because they churned last month. Well, why? Right? So I think the next step is for then the AI to start again, going back into its agentic model, using a variety of different machine learning and AI models. Maybe it's going to use a forecasting model or a classification model or a regression model, or something like that. So it can start to uncover like key drivers of why certain things are happening. Like if you see a spike over time or a fluctuation, well, maybe there was a promotion was happening then, or maybe there were some tariffs or something like that. So demand went, so it can start to like look beyond just the basics and reach out across different subject areas, across different data sets, and start to infer likely reasons why something is happening to tell. So the end user knows how to fix it, right? I mean,
Mm.
it's one thing to know, yes, I know I have a problem. Something's going great or something's going really badly, but ultimately they want to act and fix it. And so I think AI needs to start helping them understand where to look, how to fix it, and possibly even automate that as well, right?
Mm.
Well, let's say that AI discovers that a certain number of customers based on a forecast are likely to churn next month. It can automatically fire off a promo or something like that to an email to keep those customers from churning, give them an offer, and do that all automatically. So I think that that's the real challenge for analytics and AI is not just giving people a better way to ask the descriptive questions, but also helping them understand all of the what to do about it, the prescriptive stuff that we've talked about for years. So
Yeah, I mean, it's so exciting hearing that we're as close to that, I think, as we've ever been, right? I mean,
Yeah.
every day we seem to be marching towards that, and that's very exciting for all of us out there, not just folks in the data and analytics industry.
Yep.
Okay, well, at this stage, I would like to have you do a demonstration for folks, if you're still up for it, Richard.
Sure.
I will inform all of our audio listeners, if you are interested in viewing the demo, I will encourage you to jump onto our TDWI YouTube channel, and you can check out this full episode there with Richard and I, and obviously this demo will be included. Since this is visual, we're going to sign off for the audio portion. Thank you all for tuning in. But Richard, I will hand it over to you now, and you can share your screen and go ahead and do a demonstration for us if you will.
Yep, I just sent a request, so here we go. And I'm share. So are you able to see my screen now?
Yes.
So this is an example of what we call a Genie space. So this is, a Databricks UI that's very similar to ChatGPT. You've just got an area to start asking questions here. And we built this space on a data set based on hospital patient encounters. There's some stuff I found on the internet that's like, open source data sets that's quite fun to play with. So this is the kind of UI that you get out of the box. I might also add that Genie is available via REST API as well. So we see many customers putting their own UI on top of Genie, maybe inside Microsoft, so it can be inside Microsoft Teams or in Slack or in SharePoint or something like that. Um, but if they don't want to have developers roll it into their own UI, they can use ours. And you'll see here that it's just given some basic questions or some suggested questions. So Genie suggested these questions just based on what it sees in the data. So I can ask one of these, or I can just go in and I can ask a question myself. So if I just say, for example, I'm not going to type because I can never type in front of an audience. Just show me encounter duration by payer. Uh, so it will, it's thinking, it's collaborating with these agents. You can see here that what it's doing now is actually, giving a natural language summary of what it's about to do. So it's explaining its reasoning. You can see here that now it's pulled back all of the different payers. So these are different insurance companies, and it's showing the average encounter duration of patients for those particular insurance companies or those payers as well. And then another agent now has decided that, a pie chart is the best way of displaying, a bar chart is the best way of displaying this. You should probably sort it a little bit here, but I could go in and sort that if I wanted to. But it's giving me a nice visual as well. And what you can also see is, it's doing some due diligence. Is this correct? Help us. If you think it's correct, click yes, or tell me to fix it, or request a review. So there's some feedback that the end user can provide at this question. And then lastly here, which is something new in Genie, it's now coming up with like suggested next steps. So, well, maybe you want to know what the average encounter duration is for each payer, or how does the encounter duration vary by gender, or whatever, so on and so forth. So that's kind of the basic interface. But because this is a conversational interface, you should think of it as a conversation. So my first question was what's encounter duration by payer. Now I just want to say, okay, that's great. Can you just slice that by encounter class? So that's just all of the different types of encounters that happen, and then like have a further drill down by payer as well. So again, you can see the natural language instruction here. It's off looking for some compute to run this query on at the moment, and it's come back with a drill down, right? So now I'm looking at by payer name, by encounter class, and it's giving me the encounter duration as well. So it's just this kind of environment where you can just have this conversation, this back and forth with the AI. Now, just moving into maybe a slightly more complex question. Let's say I wanted to ask, show me high risk readmissions by gender. Um, so This is an example of Genie not hallucinating when other tools might hallucinate. So it doesn't know what high risk readmissions mean. It's not in the data right now. Can you tell me, please, what this means? Right. So that's great. So this is like helping to build trust at the same time as training the AI. So as an end user now, I can give it the definitions. I want to tell it that high risk readmissions are patients that have more than one encounter within a 3 month period. This is just a basic rule that I made up. It's probably not at all anything like how actual people in the medical field uh, feel, how they define high risk patients. But you get the idea. The fact is here, you can give it a definition. And it's still looking for compute here, so hopefully we can this will come back before the end of this webinar. There we go. So it's kind of learned from my definition here, and it's given me a result. So these are all of high risk readmissions by broken down by gender. Give me a nice visual as well. And it said, should Genie remember this? Do you want me to actually remember it? So I'm going to say, yep, looks good. And now it's actually learned that new definition in real time. So with that somewhat successful demo, I'll hand it back.
Um, Richard, was there anything else that you wanted to take us through with your screen share at this point, or can we close it up, do you think?
No, I think this is probably all I'd have. There's way more than this,
Of course.
the product I actually manage is this is one half of the product, so the other is more of a traditional BI kind of data visualization interface for building dashboards and stuff. But Genie is baked into that as well. But this is more just the standalone tool. And as I mentioned, this is all available over APIs as well. So we have many customers that kind of have this experience inside the applications they use every day. So they're not having to come to Databricks to get answers. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right. Well, that's fantastic. I have ended the screen share there so that we can sign off for everyone. And for those, again, that are interested, the ebook, I'll mention it here again, Business Intelligence Meets AI, Self-Service Analytics That Finally Work. It is available now. You can go ahead into the description of this episode on the audio portion or on YouTube and click the link in the bio,
Good
excuse me,
book.
in the description to learn more information, download the ebook. Richard, this was an absolute pleasure. Thank you for taking me through this. I'm very excited for what Databricks is doing. And thanks again. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great to talk to TDWI. I've been following you guys for decades, literally decades. So it's great to talk to you guys.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much, Richard. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks.
To subscribe to the Speaking of Data podcast or to learn more about TDWI's research and training on all things data management and analytics, visit tdwi.org or click the link in the description below. Thanks for tuning in.